Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and today I'm going to be breaking down Lucky Tackle Box's March box with giants like this. Look at this fish right here. This is on one of the lures you're going to get in your box this month. Look at this monster. My God, guys. This is the time of year, March, April, May, to catch the biggest panfish and the biggest bass of your life. So I'm going to bust open this month's box and break down what we got and teach you guys how to better use it and what I like to use it on. Absolutely awesome. Let's measure this one. That is 12.5 inches long. 12.5 inch red ear. Okay guys, now might as well just start off with the bait I just caught that giant on. The Southern Pro Crappie Critter. This is a pretty sweet deal. I want to show you guys this up close. This is like it's like a little tiny grub with tons of appendages on the side. I believe it has 6 appendages on each side, and it's got 2 tails down here. This is almost like a miniature brush hog. The really cool deal about this is, you know, I'm going to rig it on 164 to an 1/8 ounce jig head depending on the bottom makeup. The cool part is, if you have grass and you can't really jig because you're getting a lot of grass on there, you can cast it out and retrieve it, and these 2 tails are going to kick a whole lot for you, so you can retrieve it just like a grub and catch a lot of panfish like that. Even the bass love these things. But at the same time, if you have a harder, rocky gravel bottom, you can slow hop it up off the bottom because it has a ton of appendages. So even sitting there and dragging it along the bottom, it looks almost like a baby crawfish just moving along. So it allows you the versatility to fish it as like a grub or as a bottom hopping bait. Which is exactly the scenario I ran into. I was bottom hopping it, and then I got into a real grassy area, and then I just decided to retrieve it right over the top of the grass line, and then I crushed that giant red ear. Just like that. I'm going to fish this thing, like I said, on 1/64 to 1/8 ounce jig heads from 2-pound line, probably up to 6-pound line. I'm not going to go much heavier than that. It's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. The main body there is about 1 inch, so there's no reason to go too heavy. The lighter line, the more action, therefore the more bite you're going to get. Now here we have the Northland Tackle Impulse series. This is the 2-inch swimming grub. These things are really cool, man. These guys are really thinking outside the box, and you hear me say that a lot, but I'm finding more and more often nowadays that companies are really trying to separate themselves from the pack, which is fantastic for us anglers because we're getting to try a new approach for these fish all the time. I want you to take a look at this tail. See that tail? It splits on there. What that split in the tail is going to offer us is a different action versus the standard tail motion. It's going to throw off something different. It's going to give those fish an entirely different look. And if you look at the back here, it's got ridges. Any small plastic bait with an extra ridge or two, the action, the water displacement is just going to be different in general. So though this looks like a 2-inch grub, and it is a 2-inch grub, it's got a different body shape, a split tail right there, good scented bait, great pliable bait, doesn't tear very easy, and I've been crushing fish on this. I've got big bass, I've got big red ears. We don't have crappie in my lake, but I guarantee if I put it out there, I'd be crushing big crappie. I'm going to go on as light as probably 1/32. Sometimes maybe I'll go into 1/64 for this, but this might be a little too much meat, unless they're really shallow up. They're up bedding on beds, and I want to come through 6 inches of water and still have that tail kick. I'll go that light. But just like the same line class, I'm going to fish this anywhere from 2 to 6 pound. If you're fishing like an 1/8 ounce jig head, you can get away with 8 pound because you're casting this out and you're just doing a slow, steady retrieve, or you're burning it. The difference with a grub, you know, some people like to hop the grub off the bottom. I've had so much more success with a continuous retrieve on that grub. You know, throw it out, let it hit the surface, retrieve it right away, cover the top, count it down a couple seconds, cover the middle of the water column, let it get to the bottom, hop it, and then slow roll it along the bottom. The cool part about a grub like that is you're going to be able to pick that water column apart, and it's going to better give you a clue. Fantastic search bait. Instead of just going out immediately and hopping a little jig off the bottom, search those fish out with a grub. You get bit on the grub and you have your favorite jigging bait, switch over at that point. But grubs are phenomenal search baits, so make sure you're using them. Now here we have the Primal Chase 2-inch minnows. These are little swim baits, and I absolutely love pre-rigged swim baits. So convenient that you don't have to put a little soft plastic on there and rig it up wrong and have a little kink in it. You know, right out the box, look at the eyes, look at the detail on this. It's the perfect little shad imitating bait. The red ears, my panfish in here, don't eat minnows. They're primarily crustacean feeders, snails, crawfish. Occasionally they'll hit a minnow, but it's very rare. So I've been catching a ton of bass on these things. Nice big paddle tail on the back right there. It's going to give you a lot of kick. And they're very, very stable and have a flat bottom. So you can slow roll this and just bounce it over those rocks or just drag it through. And you'll see that angle on the nose right there. It's going to allow you to just kind of hop it up through those rocky bottoms and get a heck of a lot of fish this way. One big single back hook like this is phenomenal. And I want to tell you guys something. When you're fishing a swim bait, when you cast it out there and you feel bunk, do not set the hook. What you want to do when you feel them hit it is reel a little bit faster, to where if they grab here, the natural tendency for a fish is to try to get away. He's going to try to force himself. So if you reel faster, it's going to feel like the fish is trying to escape. Then they're going to chomp down. Once you feel your rod load up and get pressure, then lean on it and drive that hook. You have a single exposed hook. There's absolutely no reason for you to try to jam the hook when you feel them bump it. Just reel real fast. If you don't feel them, then go back to the speed you're reeling. It just looks like a fish fleeing that situation. So that's going to help you out a ton versus driving that hook, trying to drive that hook when he hit the tail, then it falls to the bottom and it just looks fake as all tar. But instead, if it looks like a fish trying to flee, they're going to run it down, they're going to feel it going, and they're going to choke it down deeper, and you are going to hook up way more often doing like that. This bait, I really wouldn't fish this anything under 4-pound line, and I would fish this up to 10-pound. With swim baits, I really like to fish on 100% fluorocarbon line, strictly so I can feel if I feel a little subtlety, or if I feel the tail stop moving, or if I make a really long cast. These are for covering a lot of water. You're making the longest cast possible. I don't like line with a lot of stretch in it, so fluorocarbon line's generally my choice at that point. If I'm fishing close, I'll fish copolymers, and this is what I want to go in here. Here you have the Vicious Pan Fishing 6-pound test, low visibility. This is a copolymer line. Copolymer line is just basically a nylon-based lines with fluorocarbon properties. Basically, they use it to coat the line to help be it more invisible, to help it sink better or decrease the amount of stretch. Fluorocarbon has those abilities, and so what they do is they coat basically a nylon line, which we often refer to as mono. 6-pound test that's coming in your box this month. A good versatile pan fishing line. I like to fish 4 and 6 and a lot of the times 2, but I'm just trying to look for an extra bite here or there. It's not absolutely necessary to go as low as I like to do, but the 6-pound test is perfect to get you started. Copolymer does have a lot more stretch. If you're not making a cast over 30 to 50 feet, you know, stretch is going to help you. You have little hooks, you have light line. If there was no stretch on your over tendency to jerk too hard on the hook set, you would break off. The stretch helps you prevent that from happening. The fish gets it, you overset, it kind of just eases in, then drives the hooks. That's why copolymer is very beneficial at close range. I fish panfish all the time, and when I'm fishing close, I would prefer copolymer lines way over 100% fluorocarbon. Long range, I like that fluorocarbon for that sensitivity. When I'm covering water or hit a rock, I want to know what's there. But once I get up tight, I'm going to those copolymer lines. So here we have the Southern Pro Crappie Beetle. Now, this is one of those jigging baits that I was just talking about. This is not something you bomb out there and just retrieve real fast. It's not going to do anything for you. 2 appendages, nice little thick round body like that. This is, you want to put it on a jig head. I go 1/32 is my lightest jig head on this. It's a lot of meat for a 1/64. I really don't think you're going to get to the bottom or even have the sensitivity to even realize. So 1/32 to an 1/8 ounce. And these are a bait that I like to jig like deeper. If I find rock piles that are like 15, 25 foot of water, I'll use that 1/8 ounce jig head and bounce it down there on the bottom. This is really good for hopping and letting fall, hopping and let it fall. It's got a lot of meat to it, so it's going to attract a bigger, badder panfish. And these 2 little appendages, when that jig head hits, they kind of have a little vibration action, and then it just kind of falls dead. It doesn't present itself as a big challenge, as a running meal. So just slowly hopping it up off the bottom, that slow hopping, jigging motion is going to get you bites with this guy. And I'm going to show you, you got another thing in the box here, these crappie trailers right here. All right, and who makes these guys, the crappie trailers? This is by the Crappie Psychic LLC, the Crappie Psychic. Now, here's something very, very cool. A lot of guys, we use like crappie niblets, and it's like a little tiny piece of bait that you put on the hook. But you know, if you're fishing a crappie tournament or you want to be 100% away from bait, trailers are absolutely awesome. So let me show you how I rig this up. So here's that crappie beetle rigged up on the 1/32 ounce jig head, hopping on the bottom. Nice subtle action. But I want to show you how I use these trailers to add a little bit more subtle action. Basically, letting your bait fall, you can count it 5-10 seconds at a time, versus this by itself, I would only go 2 or 3 seconds between hops. There's not a lot of extra action. The bait's not going to move much after those hops, but by adding these, you have more drawing power. So let me show you. Let me take one out and hook it on there. Very, very cool thing to do. You know, instead of using bait, it's an incredible thing. So let me show you here. It's got a little fat end on it, like a little ball end, and it's just like a skinny little deal here. I'm gonna just stick it right through, just like that. Very, very subtle, okay? You can push it all the way down to your bait if you want. Now, and it's scented too, so where if your bait hops, it's such a little light plastic, it's kind of ease any little current or any little grass. It's just going to kind of ease and look like a longer, slender body of something wounded. It's going to have more drawing power. A longer, thinner appendage is going to move for a longer period of time after you pause the bait, versus a stiffer, thicker plastic. From when the bait hits and stops, those appendages are going to slow down fast. Longer, skinnier piece of plastic, it's going to take a longer time for it to slow down, therefore it has more drawing power on the pause. So keep that in mind, guys. Just by adding a trailer like this can put extra fish in the boat. Don't outrule anything. When you're not getting bit, bust open that tackle box. Like they said, the man who has the most lures wins the game. So Lucky Tackle Box will make you a winner, because you will get a heck of a lot of awesome lures going through this box. So let's see what else we got. Mustad size 4 cricket hooks. Some people call them long shanks, some people call them cricket hooks. They have a very long shank. The benefit to that is you can tie a double drop shot rig. So it's a weight on the bottom, a hook here, and a hook just up from that. You can rig live minnows, night crawlers. You can nose hook your favorite plastics. You can drift with them that way. Some people call it a high-low leader. I just call it a drop shot. If you type in drop shot, you'll see it, and I'll put up the illustration right here so you know what I'm talking about. Using these hooks in drifting, if the fish overcommits and eats it, you have such a long shank on here, he's not swallowing the hook, so you can still easily remove the hook from the fish. Mustad makes some super sharp hooks, so check these out, guys. And that's it. Aside from some bait scent, you can always use some bait scent, whatever comes in there. Lucky Tackle Box sticker. Go stick this on your buddy's car who maybe subscribes to the other guys. And you know, for the most part, guys, you're not gonna get a better box of baits. You know, I'm working for Lucky Tackle Box now. Everything they send me flat out catches fish, and I would be complaining if they sent me junk, guys. So check it out, luckytacklebox.com. We appreciate you guys for subscribing, and we want your feedback, so comment on these videos, man. We appreciate it, guys. See you next time.